In this box is the Kipper?
Yom Kippur.
It's a 2-ohm 2-voice coil. Is that how you say it?
You can say dual.
Okay, dual. All right.
And cut.
Hey, it's Pronounced Bag and I'm Adam. And in this video, I'm going to show you how I replaced the subwoofer in my stock Fender Enclosure with a Kicker Comp RT sub, the 6-inch one, in my 2017 Golf R. Now, since I've been living with this subwoofer for about a month, I want to do this video a little bit differently and give you some insight as to the process and the differences that I've heard, and so that you can tell whether or not it's something that you think might be worth the challenge or even your money to do the mod. A lot of people ask me on Instagram, because that's where I posted about it first, is it worth it? The differences between the stock Fender sub and this Kicker are very subtle. You will notice a little bit of difference, but it's not going to be a drastic change. You're not all of a sudden going to feel like you have a 10 or a 12-inch subwoofer in the trunk. It's just not ever going to do that. So it's very subtle. Now, you'll see in this video all the work that I had to go through to modify to make this work. I had to cut the wires to change for the terminal type. I had to cut the edge of the subwoofer to fit the strange frame size that the Fender subwoofer had. Cut a little bit off the backside of some of the plastic bits so that it would fit. There's a lot that you have to do. Oh, and I had to modify the enclosure itself a little bit. So take a look, see if it's worth it. Jeremy's trying to talk me into a 10-inch sub, and even at this, or even before this, it was enough bass for me. So I'm not a bass head, not an audiophile, but it works, and the improvements are very subtle. So take a look, see if it's something that you think is worth it, and let me know if you're going to try this in the comments. I'd be really interested to know somebody else's feedback and see what they say about the differences. So enjoy this, and I hope you learned something. In this box is the Kicker Comp RT subwoofer I'm going to put in. This is a 2-ohm dual voice coil subwoofer. I know nothing about subwoofers. Jeremy is here helping me. There he is. He has an extensive history in pumping to bass, man. I'm just going to open this up and see what's in the box. So, some stuff, some little foam strips. I'm dropping things already.
A useless piece of cardboard.
And here's the sub itself. And there we have it. The sub.
Your Diauto LEDs aren't bright enough.
It is way brighter than it used to be.
Oh.
All right, subwoofer is under here. Unscrew. Unclip. Take out. Thank you, sir.
Welcome.
The sub has been removed. All right, so now we're going to unscrew the cover that is on the sub, and there's just 4 T20 screws that are just into this plastic. So when you're putting this all back together, be careful that you don't strip out these plastic holes. And underneath this cover, we have your stock subwoofer, and it just lifts straight out. All right, so you just slide these off. They're stuck on a little bit on both sides. Sweet.
Let's look at these two things next to each other.
There is definitely a weight difference. The Kicker one is way heavier.
Probably due to the magnet on the back.
Yeah, there's magnet. The frame is obviously a lot bigger. The connections on this Kicker one are a squeeze style, where the ones on this OEM sub are, a terminal?
Just a post, yeah.
A post. So I'm going to have to modify the connections just by cutting them off, stripping them back, and sticking them in this style of connection. Looking at both of these, feeling the material, you can feel that this is, this has 30,000 miles of bass bumps in it. So I don't know if maybe that has worn the material, but this is way stiffer. You can see just by applying about the same force.
Yeah, they do break in.
It just looks way cooler.
Yeah, I mean, you know, technically the stitching is going to make this a little bit more robust. I mean, it's a 6 3/4 inch woofer. It's not like it's going to be like bumping super crazy, but you can see it's just like, oftentimes this is just like a foam and it deteriorates over time. And sometimes you'll get, like, if you look at an old speaker, this is all cracked and like just falling apart. This won't do that. It's a lot stiffer. The cone itself is a little bit deeper when you hit it. If you could hit the other part inside. More substantial voice coils on the inside. You can see all the wiring there. So better frequency response all around. Just a little bit better subwoofer, or a lot better.
All right, Jeremy's helping me out. We're attacking this together. He's gonna cut off these little posts. These are little guide posts that sit in these holes next to the screws on the stock sub. So he's just gonna shave that off real quick. Don't cut us. Okay, well that's not going as quick as I thought it was going. Oh my gosh.
This one will be a little more tricky.
Yeah.
So really, we just need to come around like right there, or right there on the outside. It might be easy if we took the plastic ring off.
Yeah, I think it will be easier if we just knock that off.
Okay. Okay, got that broke loose there.
Do that
I'm gonna
maybe
just,
a couple more spots.
yeah, I'm just gonna go work around it.
Here it comes, just a little persuasion. There's definitely some glue on there. Nice.
I wonder if it'll just drop in there now.
Oh, it's so close. Just the hair needs to be shaved off.
Yeah.
Just barely have to trim off a little bit on the sides. Are we gonna hacksaw it?
Hacksaw it. Yeah, I think you can do it with a hacksaw fairly quickly. Did you bring one?
I did bring one. It kind of doesn't line up.
It kind of is really close.
So we're working on fitting this in still. We just trimmed out the ring to fit here, and now there's a little problem where we think we're actually hitting here on this bit on the subwoofer. So we're gonna try and cut out a little bit. This is just a plastic shroud that's around the back side of this. It looks like you're only just getting into where the magnet is, so I don't think you'll puncture anything.
No, yeah, it's just magnet on the other side here.
You want to Daniel? I have one. Right here, but I think, yeah, that's what I think the only piece you need to take off. You're really shrinking back in there.
Oh. Yeah, perfect.
Okay.
All right, see if it just follows right in place.
Make sure you did the right side.
Yeah.
Boom.
Yeah, it's fitting real tight right here. All right, yeah.
Yeah,
So our
down.
holes are not lining up exactly. We've got one matching up here, one a little bit off there, a lot of bit off, and quite a bit off there. All right, so right now the plan is we are going to modify the wires to be able to hook up to the sub. Then we'll do a quick test to make sure that the sub actually works before we screw it down. So I'm preparing to cut these terminals off, and I just want to point out that the all black is negative and the white and black is the positive. So make sure you pay attention to that before you're hooking back up. I'm going to, there's heat shrink tubing on here, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to try and cut this wire so that it's as long as possible. And just up to the bottom of that terminal there. There we go. There's one.
Testing. It works.
It does work. It's not even secured down. It's just shaking in place there. All right, so we've done the best we can do. We've cut off some of this edge. We've cut off some of the plastic on the back side. I'm doing my best to line up these two holes on the inner side The outer side is going to be a little bit more of a crapshoot. You can see exactly where they don't line up perfectly. So what we're going to do is put the cover on. I'll put the two existing screws in, and then we'll use a sheetrock screw to see how we can get these other two holes attached here. So wish us luck. Yeah, it's definitely not sealed. There's a little bit of a gap there. Let me try and tighten these screws down a little bit more.
Yeah, I wouldn't go too crazy.
Out. Yeah.
Yeah.
I can feel air coming out right here.
Yeah. Well, you'll feel air anyways.
Well, like shooting out from there.
From that
put your hand right there. Yeah. All right. So here's what I'm working with now. When I tried fitting the cover on top, screwed it all down, I still ended up with this gap right here. And I could feel air coming out from between the seam when the sub was bumping, you know. Psh, psh, psh. So where each of the screws go in, there's just a little nub that comes up. I'm gonna try shaving down the tops of those. I think that's gonna help. I still might have to put a little bit more foam tape around there to help seal it up. So there's one that is not shaved off. And here is one that I did just shave off using a razor blade. My first attempt was a little bit rougher, so I learned a little bit. I got to do these two on the back. All right, so this is the fourth nub that I'm shaving off. I've gotten better and better with each one, so I'm going to try and show you exactly how I'm doing it. Take the razor blade and I'm just wiggling it back and forth. I'm not trying to shove it through the material. I'm really just kind of going right around the edge is the best way I've found so far. And it's not going to be perfect, but just do the best you can and be patient. There's most of it off. I'll clean it up now and we'll be good to go. All right, so after cutting off those nubs, it seemed to have helped a little bit, but the back side of the sub is just so tight that this part that I trimmed out is still hitting up against that little bump down in there. So what I think I'm gonna do is, you know, I have this trimmed off here. I think the next best thing that I can do is just add some more foam tape all the way around the border here, or even on the plastic material here, and we'll make a better seal. So I have this big roll of 3M foam tape. It's double-sided stick tape, but it's not ideal, but it's what I have in the garage, so that's what I'm gonna work with. Ideally, I would get something similar to what's already on the back of the sub, where it's only adhesive on one side and then, you know, non-adhesive foam on the opposite side. So I'm gonna try this out, and I think this will probably work the trick for me, but, you know, didn't plan ahead for that. All right, so I made my best attempt to make a little bit thicker seal around the area. It's not perfectly sealed, but it's gonna be a lot better than it was. There was a lot of air that was coming out this bottom edge here. So I'm gonna hook the sub back up and we'll test it out. I am just manhandling this thing. Oh, this is gonna be a lot better. It's not rocking anymore back and forth. Just that little bit of spacing is all I needed. This is gonna be great. So then the shield goes on top. I'm gonna put my modified screw system in place. One thing I didn't touch on is that I'm using sheetrock screws on these bottom two holes just because it was just gonna be a lot easier to get them in. All right, so now here's what this seal looks like with the screws all the way down and that extra tape. Actually looks pretty darn good. Let's try it out.
There we go, test it out.